In the bustling city of London, there lived a very curious and proper gentleman named Mr. Phileas Fogg. He was a man of precise habits and routines, who always woke up at the same time, dressed in the same neat clothes, and had his tea at exactly the same hour every day. Mr. Fogg lived in a grand house on Savile Row and had a new valet, a young Frenchman named Passepartout, who had just started working for him. One day, as Mr. Fogg was sitting in his favorite chair at the Reform Club, a prestigious gentlemen's club, he engaged in a lively conversation with other club members about the possibilities of travel. In those days, traveling around the world was a grand adventure, filled with challenges and uncertainties. The discussion grew more heated until Mr. Fogg made a bold statement. "I believe," he declared, "that it is possible to travel around the world in just 80 days. The other gentlemen were astonished. "Impossible!" they cried. "The world is far too vast for such a journey in so short a time." But Mr. Fogg was resolute. "I am so certain," he said, "that I am willing to bet $20,000 that I can do it." And with that, the bet was made. Mr. Fogg had exactly 80 days to travel around the world and return to the Reform Club. If he failed, he would lose a small fortune. If he succeeded, he would prove everyone wrong. Mr. Fogg wasted no time. He returned home and informed Passepartout of their imminent departure. Passepartout was both excited and nervous. He had never been on such an adventure before. "We must pack lightly," Mr. Fogg instructed. "We will need only the essentials." They quickly gathered their belongings, including clothes, a few travel guides, and a small amount of money. Passepartout made sure to bring his favorite hat, a trusty pocket knife, and a small flask of French brandy. By the evening, they were on their way. Their first destination was Suez in Egypt. To get there, they boarded a steamship called the Mongolia, which would take them through the Mediterranean Sea. Passepartout was amazed by the grandeur of the steamship. It was enormous, with tall smokestacks and large paddle wheels. The ship's decks were bustling with passengers from all walks of life, and the crew moved with purpose as they prepared for the long voyage. As they sailed across the sea, Passepartout marveled at the vast expanse of water and the bright blue sky. He spent hours on the deck, watching seagulls swoop and dive, and occasionally spotting a distant ship on the horizon. Mr. Fogg, however, remained calm and composed. He spent his time reading maps and planning their route meticulously. They had to be precise, for every minute counted in their race against time. After several days at sea, the Mongolia arrived in Suez. The bustling port was filled with people from all corners of the world. Camels and donkeys trotted through the streets, and the air was filled with the aroma of exotic spices. The harbor was a hive of activity, with ships coming and going, and merchants shouting their wares. Mr. Fogg and Passepartout disembarked and made their way to the railway station. The streets were lined with colorful stalls selling everything from fragrant spices to intricate trinkets. Passepartout couldn't resist buying a small wooden camel as a souvenir. From Suez, they took a train to Cairo, passing through the vast and golden deserts of Egypt. The landscape was a stark contrast to the bustling port city. Endless stretches of sand dunes stretched out in every direction, interrupted only by occasional oases and clusters of palm trees. In Cairo, they visited the grand bazaars, where merchants sold colorful fabrics, shimmering jewelry, and intricate carpets. The bustling markets were a sensory overload for Passepartout, who found himself haggling for a beautiful silk scarf that he thought would make a perfect gift for his mother. Mr. Fogg purchased a beautiful pocket watch, a memento of their journey. They also took a moment to visit the magnificent pyramids of Giza. The towering structures, built thousands of years ago, stood as a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. But their time in Egypt was short, and soon they were on their way again, this time by steamer to Bombay in India. They boarded the ship with a sense of excitement and anticipation for the adventures that lay ahead. The journey to India was long and arduous. They sailed through the Red Sea and into the Indian Ocean. As they approached the coast of Bombay, Passepartout couldn't contain his excitement. He had heard so many tales of the vibrant and colorful land of India. In Bombay, the streets were alive with activity. Elephants and oxen pulled carts laden with goods, and the air was filled with the sounds of music and laughter. Mr. Fogg and Passepartout took a moment to explore the city, visiting the Grand Gateway of India and the beautiful hanging gardens. The Gateway of India stood majestically by the waterfront, a symbol of colonial grandeur. Passepartout marveled at its intricate architecture, while Mr. Fogg noted its historical significance. Their adventure in India took an unexpected turn when they traveled by train to Calcutta. The train ride itself was an adventure, passing through lush jungles and small villages. They encountered friendly locals and tasted delicious Indian cuisine, including spicy curries and sweet jalebis. However, they soon discovered that the railway line was incomplete. The train stopped abruptly, leaving them stranded in the middle of the countryside. They would have to find another way to continue their journey. As they pondered their predicament, they encountered a group of villagers who were preparing for a grand procession. Among them was a young woman named Aouda, who was in grave danger. She was to be forced into an unwanted marriage, a tradition that was against her will. Mr. Fogg, being the honorable gentleman that he was, decided to help her. With great bravery and cunning, they rescued Aouda from her predicament. They decided to take her with them to ensure her safety. Their solution to the travel problem came in the form of an elephant named Kiuni. They hired a guide and set off through the dense forests and rocky terrain, making their way toward the next railway station. The journey was slow and arduous, but they were determined to press on. With Aouda now part of their traveling party, they made their way to Calcutta and boarded a steamer bound for Hong Kong. The seas were rough, and the journey was filled with challenges, but Mr. Fogg's determination never wavered. Passepartout found the ship's motion difficult to get used to at first. He spent many hours leaning over the railing, feeling quite seasick. But as the days passed, he found his sea legs and began to enjoy the ocean voyage. He spent his time chatting with other passengers and learning about their various destinations. In Hong Kong, they faced another obstacle. The steamer they had planned to take to Yokohama in Japan was delayed. Time was slipping away, and Mr. Fogg's calm demeanor was put to the test. Passepartout, ever resourceful, discovered that another ship, the Carnatic, was leaving for Yokohama. They managed to secure passage just in time, but during the confusion, Passepartout was separated from Mr. Fogg and Aouda. Passepartout wandered the busy streets of Hong Kong, filled with a sense of urgency and desperation. He visited the bustling markets, the serene temples, and the vibrant harbor, hoping to find some sign of Mr. Fogg and Aouda. He even tried asking the local police for help, but they were of little assistance. Passepartout found himself alone in the bustling streets of Yokohama. He had little money and no idea where Mr. Fogg and Aouda were. Determined to reunite with them, he took on odd jobs and even joined a circus to earn his keep. The circus was a lively and colorful affair. Passepartout performed acrobatics and juggled, impressing the audience with his agility and charm. Despite the challenges, he kept his spirits high, knowing that he would soon be reunited with his friends. Days passed, and just as he was beginning to lose hope, he spotted Mr. Fogg and Aouda in the crowd. The reunion was joyous, and they quickly boarded a ship bound for San Francisco in the United States. The journey across the Pacific Ocean was long, but they finally arrived in San Francisco. The city was lively and full of energy, with bustling markets and busy streets. They saw the iconic Golden Gate Bridge in the distance, and the cable cars trundling up and down the steep hills. Their next leg of the journey was by train, traveling across the vast American continent. They passed through majestic mountains and endless plains. The train ride was an adventure in itself, with stunning views of snow-capped peaks, dense forests, and wide open prairies. Along the way, they encountered cowboys, Native American tribes, and even a herd of buffalo that delayed their train. The buffalo stampeded across the tracks, causing the train to come to a halt. Passepartout watched in awe as the massive creatures thundered past. In the Wild West, they faced many challenges, including a daring rescue when the train was attacked by bandits. The bandits, wearing masks and brandishing guns, boarded the train and demanded money from the passengers. Mr. Fogg, with his calm and composed demeanor, managed to outwit the bandits and save the day. Despite the delays and dangers, they continued their journey, heading toward New York City. They traveled through bustling towns and quiet villages, experiencing the diverse cultures and landscapes of America. In New York, they boarded a steamship called the China, which would take them across the Atlantic Ocean to Liverpool in England. The journey was perilous, with storms and rough seas, but Mr. Fogg remained steadfast and calm. As they sailed closer to their destination, a fierce storm threatened to delay them further. The ship was tossed and turned by the powerful waves, and Passepartout found himself clinging to the railings for dear life. The crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship on course, and Mr. Fogg's unwavering determination inspired everyone on board. During the storm, they encountered a ship in distress. Mr. Fogg, always the honorable gentleman, insisted on helping the stranded sailors. They managed to rescue the crew and passengers, earning the gratitude of those they had saved. Finally, they arrived in Liverpool, but time was running out. They had only a few hours left to reach London and win the bet. With no time to waste, they boarded a fast train to London. The train raced through the English countryside, and Mr. Fogg watched the clock intently. Every second counted, and the tension was palpable. As they neared London, a series of unexpected delays tested their resolve. The train was delayed by a mechanical failure, and they had to wait for repairs. Passepartout paced anxiously, while Mr. Fogg remained calm and composed. When the train finally resumed its journey, they encountered a herd of sheep on the tracks, causing yet another delay. At last, they arrived in London, but it seemed they were too late. Mr. Fogg's heart sank as he realized they had missed the deadline by mere minutes. He returned to his home on Savile Row, feeling defeated. But as he sat in his study, contemplating the journey, Passepartout made a startling discovery. The time difference between countries had played a trick on them. They had gained a day during their travels and still had time to reach the Reform Club. With renewed hope, they rushed to the club. Passepartout ran ahead to alert the club members, while Mr. Fogg and Aouda followed closely behind. As they entered the grand hall, the clock struck precisely 80 days. Mr. Fogg had won the bet. The members of the Reform Club were astonished and congratulated Mr. Fogg on his incredible achievement. He had proven that it was indeed possible to travel around the world in 80 days. A grand celebration was held in his honor, with fine food, music, and dancing. Mr. Fogg's name became legendary, and he was hailed as a hero. But for Mr. Fogg, the greatest reward was not the money or the fame. It was the friendships he had made and the adventures he had experienced. Aouda, who had grown fond of Mr. Fogg during their journey, expressed her gratitude and admiration. Passepartout, ever loyal and resourceful, was delighted to have been part of such an extraordinary adventure. Mr. Fogg and Aouda were married in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by their friends and well-wishers. Passepartout continued to serve his master faithfully, always ready for the next adventure. The story of their journey spread far and wide, inspiring others to explore the world and seek their own adventures. People from all walks of life were captivated by the tale of courage, determination, and the joy of exploration. As for Mr. Fogg, he knew that there were still many places to discover and many more adventures to be had. With Aouda by his side and Passepartout as his loyal companion, he was ready to embrace whatever the world had in store. And so, the tale of Mr. Phileas Fogg and his remarkable journey around the world in 80 days became a timeless story, cherished by generations to come.